Welcome to the Business of Family Business. I'm Debbie Monterey, along with Kevin Short of Clayton Capital Partners. Kevin, we have another great story to tell.
We do. This is truly a family story that goes back a generation at least. So I'm interested to hear Keith and Ryan's story and how their dad started the business and they brought it forward.
We will introduce right now Keith Poettker. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Debbie.
And also Ryan Poettker.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And it is, of course, Poettker Construction. And people may recognize the signs, although you could be in any state in the union practically these days and see Poettker Construction. But let's start, as Kevin mentioned, talking about your dad, because this truly is a family business at which your father started. Keith, do you want to talk a little bit about his story?
Sure. Well, we can both kind of chime in, but Dad was one of 10. He was a farm boy in southern Illinois, and ended up going into the service. He was going to get drafted anyways, so he ended up enlisting and was in 101st Airborne, 71. In 1971, and then came back stateside March of 72. It was really kind of horrific experience for him at 18 years old, and seen a lot of stuff that he would always say war is hell, and he said that's the only way that I know how to explain it. It's absolute hell. And so he got 2 Bronze Stars over there for heroic acts in a combat zone. One in April of 71, and then June 9th of 1971 as well. Lots of stuff that happened over there. Lost a lot of good people that were friends of his, and June 9th of 1971, they stumbled on a Viet Cong medic hut, and he carried an M60 and was setting up, and all of a sudden he heard a blast, and the percussion blast blew him back about 5 yards, but there was a tree there that protected him from any shrapnel, so he didn't have any shrapnel, but looked up and was dazed and confused, and heard a lot of groaning and stuff like that, and their medic kit was damaged from the blast, and so he didn't have any morphine to give to these guys. So he laid his M60 down and he ran across enemy lines a half mile to get another medic kit and bring it back and give everybody morphine and stuff, and then he they were fairly deep in enemy territory, and so they had to wait until that night to get out of there, and so he they collected all the bodies so that they could be properly buried stateside, and he prayed to God. He said, if you can possibly get me out of here, I will dedicate my life to building something of value. He didn't know what, but he would dedicate his life to building something of value, and he did.
Quite literally.
Did. Yeah. So
building.
So, Ryan, you got?
Yeah, it's pretty inspirational. That's something that makes you want to go to work and makes you want to have do the best that you possibly can, knowing that you have to live up to that.
Yeah.
Was that something that was talked about a lot? I know a lot of Vietnam vets just really never talked about it. Or did you just knew he was there but didn't really know the stories?
So growing up, he didn't really talk too much about it until we were probably in our 30s,
Right,
or at least in late 20s, and then he would start talking about it a little bit. But he had a saying: if somebody were to ask him how he was doing, he would say, "I'm having my best day since yesterday." And he said that for 50 years, ever since June 9th of 71, whenever that was his worst day. And so since then, he was having his best day since yesterday. And that's
I'm going to adopt that. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
His glass was always half full.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
he big personality, right?
Oh, yeah.
I never
Huge
met him,
personality.
but I gather he big person, and that's what started the business and grew the business. And built the foundation was that big personality.
Yeah, and so he got back stateside again, one of 10, and the only thing that he knew was he didn't want to go back to work on the family farm. So his oldest brother Dan was in the trades, in the carpentry trades, and decided, what, that sounds fun, and so he went into the carpentry trades and then graduated from the apprenticeship program in August of 77, and as a journeyman carpenter, and then worked his way up to become a superintendent on a couple different large construction management firms here in the St. Louis area, and then ended up in June of 1980 starting Poettker Building Company, and then in 82 he incorporated Poettker Construction Company, and that it is today. So
that's great. Well, that is Ryan, and we're also talking with Keith. Kevin and I will take a break here and be right back, but this is the business of family business, and so that first segment is the story of how a family business was born. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about how it passed on to the next generation and what challenges and successes have happened since. Stay with us here on KMOX. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Business of Family Business on KMOX. I'm Debbie Monterey, along with Kevin Short of Clayton Capital Partners. And we heard from both Ryan and Keith Poettker about the beginnings of their company. If you're just tuning in, their father, a Vietnam veteran, had pledged that if he survived, he would come back and build something great, and that ended up being Poettker Construction Company. So, Ryan, I'll ask you first. Growing up, obviously you grew up in this business. Did you assume that you would someday be part of the business, or did you have other plans?
I never had other plans. Construction is something that I absolutely love. We did grow up in the family business. I'm pretty sure there wasn't child labor laws back when we grew up. But we grew up cleaning concrete forms. Then we would go out on the projects and help do whatever the superintendent needed done. There's 4 children in our family, and all 4 of us are in the family business today.
How about you, Keith?
So growing up, I was. We started out cleaning concrete farms and changing oil on small equipment repair and stuff, and I always knew I wanted to be in the construction field. Whether that was actually involved in the business. I figured eventually, I'd end up getting there, but Dad never really pushed us to be, that had to be our career path, and so it's kind of interesting that all of us are today ended up kind of taking their route, and then coming back to work for the family business. So we've got an older brother, Kevin, that's vice president of business development for us, and our younger sister, Kimberly, is our chief financial officer, and then she's also president of Poettker Industrial, which is a power infrastructure company here in St. Louis, and so it's interesting. It's that all four of us, we all four have different personalities, but able to navigate and get along pretty well, and in terms of running the business and acting as leaders, So
is there a peacemaker in the family that negotiates and arbitrates disagreements?
Well, I would say if we need a peacemaker, we've used Dan Bean
Right.
with CMA.
Bringing the professionals, right?
Yeah. But all in all, we get along very well, and just like in life, everybody has different hats that they have to wear, and so running a family business, you have an employee hat, an ownership hat, and then a family hat, and you have to understand what hat you're wearing, at different times.
So there are 4 Poettkers, and all 4 are part of the business?
Yes. Yeah.
Do any of you do the construction? Did you go into the trades, or is it you're the overseers of the operation?
So Ryan and I, we both have a degree in construction management from SIUE, and then Kimberly has a degree in accounting, and then our brother Kevin. Kevin's more on the business development and relationship building side, and was always very, very heavy in sports, baseball, golf. Could could strike a conversation with anybody and everybody, so today that's kind of where we're at. We're Ryan and I do a lot of the project, the project operations oversight and stuff, and Kimberly's more on the finance side and stuff. So yeah.
So talk about when you started, because that was a difficult time for the economy.
Right.
17, 18, 19% interest back in 1980-ish. Were you all in the business at that point, and was that talked about in the family?
Well, so I'm a 77 model, and our brother Kevin's a 74 model, so whenever they started the business, and then, Ryan, Mom was pregnant with Ryan at the time whenever they started. So, actually,
she wasn't pregnant just yet, but
yeah.
Soon to be.
Soon to be.
But
so we weren't,
yeah.
We weren't necessarily in the business
Right.
at that time, and it still baffles me to this day, how you make a business run on that type of interest rate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and starting out, it was tough. It was tough because they really didn't have cash flow. They didn't have a lot of cash, and had to borrowed from a lot of good people that believed in Dad and stuff, and what they did end up doing from 82 to 86, Dad was building these modular buildings for Scott Air Force Base, and he built a bunch of them and got really good at that, and that kind of kept the business going with that repeat workload. And then in 86, he drove to Bentonville, Arkansas to make a pitch to a company by the name of Walmart, and he got 5 minutes at a supplier outreach event. And we've been working for Walmart ever since.
Wow.
So
That must have been a great 5-minute pitch.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that one. So how many Walmarts do you think you have built over the years?
Oh,
That's a good question.
They're calculating in
probably,
their heads.
I mean, it's probably thousands.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll do 20 remodels now per year. Walmart is more remodeling their stores. Trying to compete with some of these other online distribution entities, but I would say it's got to be over 1,000.
Well, that was a great 5-minute pitch. That could be a book in itself. We need to take another break here, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Ryan and Keith Poettker more about the business from the beginnings to where it is now. Stay with us here on the Business of Family Business. Debbie Monterey and Kevin Short of Clayton Capital Partners. We'll be right back. It's the Business of Family Business here on KMOX. I'm Debbie Monterey, along with Kevin Short of Clayton Capital Partners. And our guests today are Ryan and Keith Poettker of Poettker Construction. And before the break, we were talking about the beginnings of Poettker Construction and how their dad was building modular units at Scott Air Force Base. Must have had one heck of a 5-minute pitch to Walmart, because thousands of Walmarts have been built by them since. And I'm not sure which one of you wants to take this question, but between the modular units at Scott and the Walmarts, I mean, like I said, that was a great pitch by your dad, but how else has the business grown, and what else have you gotten into, and kind of who's the innovator there who decides where Poettker Construction pivots next?
You want to take that, or
Go for it.
Today we still have a pretty strong portfolio of retail. Our retail clients are obviously Walmart's a big part of that, Amazon, Target, and then various developers that do retail work. We're also into industrial, manufacturing, education, both K through 12 and higher ed. So pretty diversified portfolio, institutional work as well. How that's kind of grown is through relationship building. We take one relationship at a time and try to do everything that we can to grow that relationship. And so today we're licensed in 28 states, and the reason why we got licensed in those states is because the relationship wanted us to go with them, and so we would just grow with them as they were growing. And so here locally we do a lot of education work. I had mentioned my sister Kimberly started a power infrastructure company called Poettker Industrial. So that company works quite a bit for Ameren Corporation on the utility line, and then they also do renewable energy, and so just a pretty diversified portfolio in reality, but lots of kind of school of hard knocks along the way too, but you live by the golden rule and treat others as you would want to be treated, and we always look at a relationship and look at an issue with a long-term lens of, are we going to damage the relationship long-term with this decision, or are we going to grow it? And you can solve a lot of issues if, you look at that from that lens, as opposed to, kind of that short-sightedness of, this is the smart play for Poettker Construction today, but it's not a long-term, not looking at the long-term decision-making consequences of what that does to the relationship.
That's an approach. Obviously, our father taught us, and it's something that we really have to instill, especially for some of our seasoned employees that come over, later in their careers. It's a different approach than others take, and it's like Keith said, it might not be the best situation right now, but long term, it's the way that we want to grow.
Yeah,
we do also have a pretty large federal government DoD portfolio. We're doing several projects at Scott Air Force Base right now. A readiness center. So we still have, that relationship at Scott Air Force Base from back in the early 80s.
So that sounds like it served you well, all the different types of customers you have. As the economy ebbs and flows, has that helped you survive, that one customer or one sector was busy when another dropped?
Yeah. Yes, it has. It's helped us survive by being diversified, but we've had challenges, and in the early 2000s we had some really, really tough times, and we weren't sure if we were going to come out of it. It was really tough, and so that's at that time our sister Kimberly was a freshman in college. Was she a freshman or sophomore?
She was actually in high school, still a senior in high school.
Okay. So senior in high school, and then Ryan was junior in college.
Yes,
junior in college, and our brother Kevin at that time was working in business development for a construction supply company here in St. Louis, and then I was in the business in the pre-construction department, and we had some poor middle management decision making, and really kind of cost the company a lot, and to the extent where we were in 2003, we had anywhere from 3 to 4 months worth of cash left. We lost our bonding capacity, lost our banking relationship, and I had a conversation with Dad at that time on his back deck. I remember it like yesterday. I said, "Dad, you're going to have to declare bankruptcy." And he looked at me and he said, "We're not going to declare bankruptcy. I'm just happy to be here today to help guide you all through this." He said, "You still have a heartbeat. You still have a functioning mind, and you still have arms and legs. You'll be just fine." And
wow, he was quite the optimist. I do want to ask before we take a break, your dad did start this company and all of you are involved in it now, but I know your father passed away. What was that transition like? Was there ever a thought that maybe you would sell the company, or how did you come to the decision among the family of how you would move forward?
So we've engaged here locally CMA consultants to help with planning and generational transitions, probably since 2015, I believe we've been consulting with them. So we've been going through the strategic planning, the generational transition planning. It was in the works for several years. Granted, we didn't think we'd ever have to go through, that transition when we did it. But we, everyone in the organization knew, what was going to happen. The next generation was going to take over. Their position within the company, their role within the company. So there was never a thought to sell the company. We all knew exactly where we were going. We kept marching on, and having that having that background on the generational transition, really allowed the company to continue forward without missing a beat, and allowed us personally to grieve. Privately on the personal side, if we didn't go through that generational planning with CMA, it probably would have set the company back 3, 4, 5 years. Just with that size of a hiccup.
Yeah. So Dad was a meticulous planner, and when we first started this process of generational transition planning. All Ryan and I and all of our siblings were like, "What are we doing this for?" We've got so many other things to do, and that was we were so thankful that Dad kind of forced us to take the time to do that. And he said one day, the proverbial bus is going to hit me, and the next morning you all are going to be running this company. And that's exactly what happened. So in addition to all of our employees, Dad also engaged our banking relationship, our CPA firm, and our bonding company in those transition planning meetings so that they understood what would happen whenever he was gone.
Thank goodness for Dad. He planned it well. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll talk more about finding help. I know Kevin and I, one of the topics that comes up a lot is how do you find the workers to keep your company running? It's the Business of Family Business with Ryan and Keith Poettker of Poettker Construction. Stay with us here on KMOX. You are listening to the Business of Family Business here on KMOX. I'm Debbie Monterey, along with Kevin Short of Clayton Capital Partners, and our guests are Ryan and Keith Poettker of Poettker Construction.
So, incredible foundation your dad built and supported over the years, and then trained you all for the day that he wouldn't be there. It's pretty rare. And the business during that time was growing. So talk about that. Talk about where all that prep led you and how the business is doing today.
Well, we've had tremendous growth, tremendous opportunity. We've made some significant hires that have helped build this company. Just to continue on to that foundation. Currently, employee-wise, we're full-time about 230 full-time employees. We also self-perform quite a bit of carpentry-related trades, structural concrete forming as well. So we could ramp up to, I would say, 300 to 350. When we're really going in the heat of it. So we have had significant growth over the past decade, leading up to where we are today.
Yeah, and with that growth, we've expanded our leadership. And so we've got a lot of great leaders in the company today that are kind of taking charge and running various divisions and stuff of work really successfully. We've been blessed. Our strategic planning committee, we actually just increased and added additional people for another layer of up and coming individuals to take part in our strategic planning efforts. So as the business has been growing, we've been fortunate enough to retain our employees, by treating them well, and then also pick up some really good individuals along the way, and that's really what's led us to be so successful is our people.
Well, let's talk about employees, because kind of one of the running themes, I guess it's in almost all businesses these days, but Kevin and I have heard a lot of stories about how difficult it is to find workers, especially in the trades. So what kind of things are you involved in to make sure that that pipeline keeps open?
It's going to be an issue across all industries. I mean, it's an issue now, and it's going to be continue to be an issue. We're trying to think outside the box. We're starting to visit grade schools now, trying to get individuals just interested in construction. Whether it be accounting or field labor, just trying to get something sunk into their brain, construction related, and then we kind of follow through into high school and then college, just keeping that theme going, trying to get something in the back of their brain that they always want to go back to construction.
Do you see rewards from that? Do you see kids joining you after college because they met you in grade school?
The grade school, we probably started that maybe 5 years ago or so.
So it's a little early.
It's a little early.
High school.
But high school, we've been extremely successful recruiting, directly out of high school, and some colleges as well.
What's your next gen program? Is that what we're talking about?
So the next gen program is it's sponsored by our family foundation. We started the Charles V. Poettker Foundation, and that is it ties into that. So we'll offer scholarships to certain schools, and as long as they're going into some sort of construction related field, whether it be accounting or construction management, we offer scholarships. They have to apply for them, and we have a committee that will go through and narrow them down. It also allows various school districts that we work for to apply for a community impact grant, and that is something to improve the community that they live in, whether it's repainting a shelter or taking a class on a field trip somewhere, something that will impact the community as a whole.
Yep. And then we're also doing a lot of partnering with community colleges and workforce development programs in order to try to recruit and expand that trade labor force. Part of the problem as a whole, the construction industry as a whole, is trying to expand the diversity of the workforce, because going back generations, if their dad was a carpenter or if their dad was an electrician, they became an electrician, right, or a carpenter. But if we can get people excited early on about the trades, that may have not gone that route, but are hands-on people, then it's a really, really good career path that individuals can take and use that skill set throughout their entire life. So.
Well, what about in the family? Is there a next gen coming up the ranks? Your children and nieces and nephews?
Yeah.
So our children are probably too young, so we're not going to obviously force them. We're going to take after our father.
No child labor laws you mentioned. Right.
But our older brother, Kevin, his oldest son recently graduated with a construction degree and is currently a project engineer for us. So we do have the G3 in the business.
And Meg.
And his daughter Meg was an intern for us over the summer. She's currently at Mizzou.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you sharing your story with us. That was Ryan Poettker and Keith Poettker of Poettker Construction, and Kevin Short of Clayton Capital Partners.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing these stories. Great stories about your dad and the whole family. It's very impressive. So thank you.
Thank you all for the invitation.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's the Business of Family Business here on KMOX.